Greetings, gentle people. This is Dr. English's Book Lovers Book Club, and I'm Dr. English, and I teach English. Last week I said I wasn't sure what I would be reviewing this week, but this is the book I chose for this week. It's called Midnight at the Electric. It's by Jodi Lynn Anderson. This was the final book in my young adult literature class that I used as a whole class book that we would read together, and I chose this because I actually taught an ecological literacy class as a grad class, and then I also taught literature, culture, and social justice, and I was interested in a book that might talk a little bit about that. And this book doesn't talk about it explicitly. And then next week I'm going to do another book that's somewhat on the same theme, but not explicit. It's just the telling of a story. But this book I absolutely fell in love with when I first ordered this. It's a book you'll love if you love letter writing and journaling included in stories, because it does both, and it crosses time. So Adri is in the future, Kathy is in the 1930s, or Catherine is in the 1930s, and Lenore is from about the time of World War One, like 1917, 1918. But I've always had a strong affinity for novels that include journals, daily journals, or letter writing, because that used to be the thing. People used to write letters. People people still keep journals, obviously, but there's something about telling a story through those kinds of devices that I really like. So if you like those kinds of things, you will really like this. I think the thing about this book in particular is the way that Jodi Lynn Anderson brought all these women together. I was so surprised by how she did it, and it takes a lot to surprise me, as I'm an avid reader, and I know I can always kind of predict. A lot of times I lose interest in a story because I can kind of predict, oh, this is what they're going to do. And so then I don't, it's okay. I mean, I'll still enjoy the story, but it's like, oh, I know how this is going to all turn out. And then this story, that wasn't the case. I was pleasantly surprised about how she brought it all together in such a really great, just the bow tie at the end. So my shout out to Jodi Lynn Anderson for that, because it's really hard to surprise me. And so I don't want to give any spoilers, but I think the thing that really struck me is like how she imagined the future, because in the very beginning with Adri, she's in Miami, and I think that Jodi Lynn Anderson has a pretty good idea of how things might be in the future in Florida. And so that was, I was like, wow, I think this is what a lot of people do believe. And so I was impressed by that she's done her research. People always say, well, I'm an academic and, I have all this research to do. And I'm like, well, novel writers have to do a lot of research to make it believable, because you can't have credibility with certain readers if you don't do your research to what the future might hold. But and I don't want to give it away, but in the future, there's also, travel out, beyond the earth. And so I found that little tidbit kind of, resonated with my science fiction heart as a longtime lover of science fiction and science fiction writers, and just science fiction in general. I'm a big fan of Star Trek when it was, in its beginning, the original series, and imagine how, we might have those things. And so I love that she's kind of encompassed a great deal, but also the past. And so it's also a book that switches narrators. And I think she did a really good job of developing each of these women in a particular way, and all at an age when they're young. And so it really will appeal to adolescent readers, because they're women who are at a stage in their life where they're trying to, figure out who they are becoming and what's their purpose in life. And so in each woman in the story has a unique story, and they are all across the generations, across, the years, they have a connection. And I think that we all kind of look for that. I mean, I think I've always been a history buff, and I know other readers are like, when you start to do some research and you find out things about people in your family, it's just, striking, how meaningful that can be. And I feel like that's one thing Anderson did a really good job for us as readers to, to know that others came before us. And I think that's really an important lesson for all people. And I think in adolescence in particular, like if you're interested in history, and appreciate like what was the work of those who came before you. I think that's she does that so well in this book, and so I really appreciate that about this book. And so now I have a couple of passages I want to read. A lot of times I just read one, but I really wanted to read two for this book from Jodi Lynn Anderson. And I won't tell you what Midnight at the Electric, actually refers to, but it takes place in the 30s during the Dust Bowl. So the beginning is in Florida in the future, and then it's Catherine in the 30s in the Dust Bowl in Kansas. He nodded as if to himself. Time matters. Time matters. In nature's calendar, midnight is the breath between day and night. It's only at this hour that neither the sun's rays nor the moon's great pool can interfere with the electrical currents. That's passage number one. And then I have this passage, which, funny enough, is also from Catherine's narration. And I'm going to do an ellipsis, ... in part of it, because there's a spoiler in this, and I'm not going to give away the spoiler. Mama says God will show us the way forward. Her faith never changes, while mine does all the time, blinking out at times, flaring up at others. For the moment, I think maybe there is a God, but a different one than she says. I think God might be the dust and the jackrabbits and the rain. That God might be ... the beautiful and exquisite moon and the terrible zeppelins all spread out and everywhere. I've begun to think that maybe we are God's fingers rubbing against each other to see how it feels. Do you think that is a sacrilegious thought? That God might be everything and its opposite? So those are the passages I wanted to read from Midnight at the Electric. And then finally, to wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about whether this is a book you could teach in a secondary English classroom. And I absolutely, there's really nothing that would be, I think others would find offensive. Maybe someone who maybe, doesn't believe that the climate crisis is real, might take offense to it, but I don't really see that, because there's nothing really explicitly said about that. It's more subtle. It's a story, and their stories are in different eras, with each of them having some kind of climate event. And so, because obviously the Dust Bowl was a climate event in the 1930s that incredibly impacted people in the Midwest in particular. So I thought it was really great that she put that in Kansas, as a lot more people maybe are familiar with John Steinbeck and the people coming from Oklahoma to California. But it was just so dry and so dusty. So I feel like, I don't really feel like anyone can find anything offensive in this story at all. It's just so beautifully crafted, about, it's about love. It's about discovering things over time, and it gives you a little bit of history too, about a couple of events in history. The Dust Bowl, and then the Lusitania, and the 19 in Lenore's section. So I think this is a great book that could be taught, and definitely it should be, and as I said, I taught this as a whole class book in my young adult literature class, and definitely you could have it on your shelf for the people who are maybe not overly science fiction, but historical novel kinds of thing. It's not really, there's a couple of events, but it's not like written as an historical novel from my perspective. So definitely you could teach this book as a whole class book. Next week, we're going to do Here's the book for next week. It's called The Light Pirate. It's by Lily Brooks Dalton, and it too is a book that has a little bit of an undercurrent of addressing the climate crisis. Sorry, I had to reach out for that, but go off screen just a little bit. But I wanted to make sure I had the name of the author exactly right. So thank you for joining Dr. English's Book Lovers Book Club. I'm looking forward to reviewing The Light Pirate next week. And the following week, I'm going to go through my list of other books that we read in our young adult literature class and last fall, and I'm looking forward to that. I also have a few others that I have taught in a intermediate methods course that I'm excited to share, and some of you may be familiar with some of those titles. So until next week, thank you for joining me for Dr. English Book Lovers Book Club. Until next week, bye.